Okay, Dave, I am posting that if you want to drop the Zoom link in underneath it for anyone else that is in your private group that wants to come on and join us as an attendee as well.
Perfect.
That should be going live here in just a sec.
I see it. There it is.
All right, awesome. Okay. Well, I just want to welcome everyone. I'm super excited about this because I know it's really needed. Dave and I think it was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we're chatting on one of our calls together and about the needs and interests of the people in his private group that has a lot of product-based businesses and a lot of retailers, and the fact that they really needed to have a focus on e-commerce and how to be successful with it with this crazy changing environment, and especially with what's going on right now. So of course, this is something I love to talk about. So I thought, let's do this and let's make it a masterclass and let's invite anyone else that wants to be a part of it to join us, which is how we're here today with you guys. So I'm going to let Dave introduce himself a little bit and talk just briefly about Candid Wholesale and what they do to support retailers and product brands and wholesalers and everything and the amazingness that they do before we jump in.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, hi, I'm Dave from Candid Wholesale. Candid Wholesale is an application. It's for buyers and sellers of wholesale. So we work with a lot of product companies. We work with a lot of companies in the apparel and home goods sector and fragrance and toys and pet care and anything that gets sold from a maker to a store and then sold on to an end consumer. It's a business management platform to help you take care of your wholesale and make more sales and keep more of what you sell. And we've also created a Facebook community, the Candid Wholesale community, that speaks to those issues, but sort of has a wider scope of just, it was really kickstarted by quarantine and the fact that all of a sudden, a lot of these businesses who rely on foot traffic and being in the world just got hammered. And so it's become a place for people to get together and talk about the trends in the industry and sort of what's working for them, what isn't. Ultimately with a focus on wholesale, but really it's a broad focus because that extends into manufacturing on the supply side and actual retailing on the demand side. So we've Jamie's been helping out in there a lot, and it's just been really fun and uplifting to interact with all these people in our space. And the comment that keeps coming up and up and up, to no one's surprise, is I want to get better at e-commerce. Regardless whether you're drop shipping out of your bedroom or whether you've got a $1 million storefront on Main Street, e-commerce is very important, and it's increasingly where most of the business is moving. And you can be okay at it and still have a lot of room to get better. So that's why I'm excited for this class. And Jamie, obviously you bring so much to it that is outside of my ballpark. I used to be a web developer and I used to set up stores for everybody in the world. But then I would sort of walk away and leave it in the hands of people like you, who would then go on to actually drive traffic and build sales volume. So I'm expecting to learn a lot today too.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely excited to, share some of the things that we, I run into so much with people that I'm talking to, prospects or even people in the online community who even sometimes have a successful e-commerce store, and there's still so many pieces that they're not doing yet. And I think that there's so much opportunity even just for foundational stuff. So I'm really going to be digging in on the foundational side of it more than I am doing super deep into tactics. I realize, I'm going to tell you guys right now, that as I was creating this presentation, I was like, oh my gosh, I've just basically created topics for 4 different workshops that I could probably talk 2 hours each about. And so that might be something else that comes out of this, because I want to provide the tactics and I want to provide the strategies that actually are going to help people. But I know that there's just foundational conversations that I have on my prospect calls all the time that bring aha moments. So I think that's kind of my goal today, is to bring some of those aha moments for people out now, and then be able to dive a little bit deeper as we can continue to talk about different things and help them to really actually do the tactics and the strategies that will make it so that they can double their revenue through e-commerce and really build a successful online channel that is in addition to their existing businesses. And it's not a pivot of their business, but it's an additional revenue channel that will make a huge difference for them. Okay, so with that, I am just actually doing one more little post so that anyone else who wants to come in can come in, and then let's do this. Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is technical glitches, right? I just accidentally got rid of my presenter screen with my notes, which is crazy because I want to give you guys all the deets. Okay. I think I'm going to have to reshare the screen right quick. Okay, reshare. Don't worry, guys.
The joys of remote work.
I know. Isn't that funny? I actually have, a like, I mentioned that in this because it's just like, I feel like even those of us who have been doing this for so long and working remotely, we're doing even more. And the technical glitches that can happen, right? Like, is for sure a thing,
Yep.
Okay, sharing screen, starting. Okay, here we go. So I know that when I first got into digital marketing, my brain felt a little bit like this. I was like, what in the heck is this? Why are there so many things that you can do? And what is a lead and what is a funnel and what the heck are we talking about? And why do I have to create a landing page and what is happening? I just want to sell things on my e-commerce store. I get this. I was there. I've been on the other side of the coin a few different times, and I want to help you to really get some actionable information that helps distill this mess and all the craziness that you see out in the world and the information overload that we get in the digital space. So today, what you're going to discover is the most vital numbers that you need to know to succeed online, why they matter and how to improve them, why email is not dead and how to use it to get more money quickly, why funnels are not the best way to get sales, the exact type of content that can get you going immediately for free, and the types of Facebook ads that are most effective in driving sales on your store, not just views and engagement. This is a lot of stuff, so I'm going to go as quickly as possible to totally respect your time and really get you guys in a place of success. So I want to just say that I know what it's like in the online world. I know what it's like now having to work remotely and not actually be able to have kind of the same parameters that we had before. So I'm going to ask everyone to just be here with us for this time. I'm going to try to respect your time as much as possible and not take this too long, give you as much as we can, and then, be able to answer your questions and really dig in after this. So with that, I am going to just tell you that we're going to go through this training. I'm going to dig in. I'd love for you to put the questions in onto the page, into our Q&A section or into the chat. Dave's going to gather those. We're going to get into Q&A and dig into that piece of it afterwards. And I'm also going to talk about some bonuses you guys are going to get. I'll talk about that throughout. That'll come through your email at the end. I think Dave has some things to give you guys too that will help you on the wholesale and retail side. And yeah, so stick with us so that you can get tons of information and get those bonuses at the end, and then be able to dig in with questions. Okay, so who is this training for? Anyone who has stepped their foot into e-commerce but know they have a lot more opportunity. Product brands that mainly sell wholesale and in their own retail stores. Retailers who are looking to grow through additional online revenue. E-commerce stores that have revenue but haven't quite figured out how to take it to the next level. And honestly, even e-commerce stores that are just starting out but really want to do it right, there is going to be something here that can help you for sure. So with that, oh, hold on, I got like a notice. I need to let somebody in for some reason. Okay, one sec here. Okay, cool. So I want to tell you a little bit about my background because I've been where a lot of you are, and that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that you have the right information that you need. An interesting tidbit about my background is that I owned a pretty successful event marketing and management company that specialized mainly in sports marketing. And I knew nothing about e-commerce. I knew nothing about how to really build sales online. I did do a lot of marketing. I did build in the digital space, but it had nothing to do with e-com. And I burnt out hard after never being home and working 18-hour days. I had amazing experiences working with the NFL and the NCAA, being at Super Bowls, but I was just done. And so I thought it would be a really smart idea to develop my own product and build my own e-commerce store. And that I was just going to like suddenly make all of the money online, which was a great learning lesson for me in a lot of ways. So this was in 2014, and I believed I was going to change the world with my store. It was a social enterprise. I had these amazing partners. We were making sales, things were happening. I just had this massive vision. But I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I realized today that if I had just had someone to provide me even the most basic of information, I might have ended up in a different situation. And the reality was I was in way over my head. And my brain felt like that initial slide I showed you, or maybe like this little girl, like all the time, like 95% of the time trying to figure out how to just make this work. And I lost a lot of money, like all of my money. And I knew about 2 years in that I probably couldn't keep it going. I did not realize how capital intensive it was going to be. And I knew what not to do by this point. So when I decided that I was going to put that on the back burner and step back into a 9-to-5 job, which I had not done in a long time, it was a little bit of a licking my wounds situation. I ended up heading up marketing for a massively growing cup company. And I knew enough to be dangerous. I had learned enough in that situation to be dangerous and to honestly be a total thorn in the side of our agency partners. I was probably the biggest pain in the ass, like truly. I knew what a sales funnel was. Thanks ClickFunnels for taking a lot of my money. But I didn't know what it meant in running Facebook ads or Google ads, really. Like, I didn't understand how a funnel connected in that way. I also could not wrap my head around what a funnel meant then for like a store where you had a lot of products on it. I couldn't like connect those things together quite yet. I knew what email automation was, but I had a tendency to like super duper overcomplicate it to the point of total analysis paralysis and just not doing it, which is something that I run into a lot now with a lot of people I talk to on strategy calls. I also knew that I wasn't getting enough of what I needed from the marketing agencies and partners that we were working with. But I didn't know enough to be able to really do it by myself. So I just kind of decided I dedicated every waking free moment to learning and figuring out how to take the brand's e-commerce game to the next level. Because at this point now I had at least the resources to pay for the trainings I needed to that I didn't have when I was trying to run it myself. And I am an entrepreneur by nature. So I had to, I was the person there that was like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to move their e-commerce revenue from 2% of their total revenue to like, I mean, I had some crazy goals. I was like 50%, it's going to be 50% of the total revenue. And I did get pretty far. And I learned everything I needed to actually create the foundation needed there, from ads to email automation to website conversion. And it made a huge difference. And I kind of fell in love with it. I fell in love with the magical cross between data-driven decisions and creative strategies that actually make you money and aren't just marketing smoke and mirrors and engagement and impressions. And I really figured out how to make sense of all of those crazy pieces. So one of the biggest things that was a huge aha moment for me was realizing one of the biggest myths that I see and hear today still, one that I believed myself. And that is that we, as either retail store owners or product brand owners, have a tendency to look at our margins when we're going direct to consumer and think to ourselves, oh my gosh, those margins are so fat. If I don't have to lose the money on wholesale, or I don't have to pay this crazy overhead, I'm going to make so much money. But there are all these gaps that so many people don't realize and don't experience until they're there. So the biggest myth in that is that the reality is you have to spend the money to get the people. And now that does not mean ads. And I'm going to get into that in a second. There's actually a lot of people I tell not to do ads. They're not ready for it, which throws people through a loop a lot of times. And I'll talk about that later. But there is money that has to be spent in different ways, whether that is paying someone that is going to be dedicated to doing your organic and really engaging, getting your email up and running. I mean, this could be sweat equity and money that's going in that way, but there is dedicated time and money that has to happen here in order to drive the traffic. And a lot of times, for you to be set up for success and not end up in a situation where you're like, why isn't it working? You need to be thinking about those margins that you might have lost to wholesale. Those are the margins that need to be spent on your marketing in one way or another. So for instance, if you have 75% margins on your product, that's a pretty standard, if you're a product brand, amount that you're going to have, because 25% of what you get off your MSRP is going to be the cost of your goods sold landed. So when you sell to wholesale, you're typically selling at 50% and you're making that 25%, or I mean, you're losing that 25%. So that extra 25% is what you would gain. They get that 50% in their, oh, welcome, Britt. Okay, so they get their extra 50% in there. in the retail store. The retail store has their overhead. So if you're a retail store, you're thinking you're going to make the margins that you're not having to spend on that side of things. So what happens then is that we think we're going to be making that. Well, as I mentioned, the 25% that you're losing, that's the amount. When you're going into this to set yourself up for success, that's your marketing budget. That is, getting our brains around that will change so much in order to figure out where to spend your time and money to make it work for you. And I'm going to get into then what the numbers around your margins are going to matter in how it relates to all of these pieces. So with that, the first one is numbers matter. Average order value. So the numbers I'm going to get into here are the ones that always come up on my strategy calls where people have not calculated them. These numbers matter because of the fact that you need to know them to know what you can spend on your marketing, what you can spend to acquire a new customer, how they fit within your margins, and what it looks like in the long run and how much money you're making. So many people go into deciding that they want to run advertising or get into digital marketing, and they don't know these numbers, and they're just throwing money into a bin and basically setting it on fire. Knowing these numbers is going to give you kind of boundaries on what you can spend, why you can spend it, and if you need to improve things before you spend your money. I want to save you guys from spending money that you're not going to get anything back from. So the very first one is average order value. So what is your average order value? It's the average amount that an individual will spend on your website, on an individual order on your website. So we typically, some platforms, Shopify especially, will give you these within reports, and they're really easy to find. If not, then you take your total amount that you've made in revenue divided by your total numbers. That gives you your average order value. Why it matters is because it tells you how much you can spend to acquire the customer. This is also where your margins come in. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that if you are potentially going to be working with an agency partner, and this is one of the experiences I had, if they're not asking you about these numbers and telling you to get them if you don't have them, that's a huge red flag, because that means they don't understand the operations behind your business to really be able to help you to level up. So with that, I've got like crazy sun glare here. Okay. With that, your average order value matters. Your margins matter within your average order value as well, because if your average order value is 50, well, actually, let's take an easy number here so I can do the calculations off the top of my head. If your average order value is $100 and you have 75% margins, then it's costing you $25 for whatever products you just sold. Now, you might have some additional costs associated within that besides your landed margins, because you might be covering shipping, which at $100 you probably should be, because they can go to Amazon Prime for free and probably buy from a competitor. So there's things that you need to do like that. So you need to be considering those pieces. Okay, so now you have, let's just say you're doing $10 shipping cost. So now you have $65 in profit margins. Well, that means that you need to then be able to know how much of that you're willing to have as a cost per purchase. That's one of the next metrics we're going to get into a couple down. And how much you can have to acquire that new customer. Now, if you have lower average order values, and so you end up with, let's just say $30 after all your costs in, and we typically see a $25 cost per acquisition on average for a low ticket e-commerce product on Facebook. Is that going to work for you? Do you have enough money on the back end for you to be able to actually be profitable as a business in e-commerce if you're making $5 on your first sale. So this is a hugely important metric to know. How do you increase your average order value? You can do things like bundle and drive all of your cold traffic to a bundled product that actually is a lot higher than your normal average order value, so that that initial purchase is more money. You can do things like add upsells on your website through plugins or coding. You can also do upsells via email. So there's a lot of different ways to incentivize the offer to increase it at the beginning. You can also do things like, if you are offering free shipping, if you are offering free shipping, can you do the free shipping at $50 if you need to get your average order value higher? Now, just like I mentioned before, this is an area where you need to be a little bit careful, because if you go too high, do people leave and not purchase because they're used to getting free shipping? So you have to be thinking about all those pieces. Okay, that gets into lifetime value though. So let's just say you're in a position where your average order value, you're going to break even or maybe even lose money. Well, then lifetime value is massively important. It's massively important anyway. And we really don't want your average order value to be representative of what your customer is normally going to give you. We want lifetime value to be much greater than your average order value. So your lifetime value is how much a customer is going to spend with you over the time as a customer. There we go. Okay. Now, there's two ways to think about this, and two numbers I think that people need to have when they're looking at lifetime value. One is, what do they spend with you over the lifetime of them? Now, if you are somewhat newer in the e-commerce space, then you might not have this information yet. But it's important to know, because if somebody is spending with you year over year over year, then it is worth spending more money to acquire them. If that is a normal situation for you, if 30 to 40% of your people are buying from you every year, it's worth actually spending a little bit more. It's also important to know the numbers for the year, just so you can look at it from a fiscal budgetary standpoint. Why it matters: higher lifetime value means you can break even or lose money on the first purchase. This gives you a lot more leverage. So concentrating on how you increase your lifetime value is a number one thing that I always encourage my clients to think about and be actively doing in order to make the most out of their advertising and their efforts in driving traffic. Subscriptions for consumables is one of the number one ways to increase lifetime value. So that consumables is anything that obviously needs to be replaced. So not just food, but anything that is in that way going to disappear, and that people should technically be buying more of. So setting them up for success to do that is going to buy it right from the beginning, or if they buy it once and then they know they love it, getting them to opt in for the subscription, that is the easiest way to increase lifetime value. But having logical products that complement your product, that can drive people to come back and purchase more, purchase again, seasonality, limited editions, these are all ways to drive people to come back and buy again. And having really strong nurturing. A lot of people don't talk about this in lifetime value, but the reality is, if you have really strong nurturing behind you, then it's going to make a really big difference in them becoming raving fans, becoming promoters of you. And then you're not just going to have them buying more, but they're going to get more people to buy without you having to spend money on the acquisition. So nurturing is a huge part of this that a lot of people don't talk about in lifetime value. So CPA or CPP, cost per acquisition or cost per purchase. So while they're the same thing, they're also different, because cost per acquisition, we're talking about the cost per acquiring a new customer, versus the cost per purchase is any purchase, including those that you might have to pay a little bit to nurture somebody to get them to come back, but you're not acquiring them as a new customer. So they're two different metrics that are both important. But either way, we can kind of talk about them in one. It's important because it's knowing how much you're willing to spend to acquire that new customer and how much you're willing to spend to nurture them. Your CPA is going to influence your return on ad spend for sure. We're going to talk about the halo effect though, and how that sometimes may not matter as much as emphasis is on today in the digital marketing world. And there is several ways to influence the levers for CPA and CPP. But what's really interesting is the levers I talked about previously, those are all levers you have control over on your website. Those are levers that are important for you to know, work on continuously, and have in place before you start advertising. Almost all of these levers are going to be on the actual ad platforms, although there are a couple things that you can do on your website itself. So nailing your message with your prospects. This is both on your website and in your advertising, but really connecting well to people and getting them to understand why they should purchase from you is going to be a massive effect on your cost per acquisition, because you're going to get people to purchase more quickly and more often. Really strong creative. This is an on-platform thing, but having thumb-stopping, clickable, really engaging creative is another way to lower your cost per acquisition, because you're going to drive more traffic to your site and get more people to see your product, be closer to taking that action. High engagement is also another on-platform metric. This means you do have to actually be consistent, and actually having more organic content on your business page will lower your cost per acquisition. Crazy, annoying, but true. And the last one that isn't in this bullet point, because it's the next thing we're going to talk about, but is your conversion rate. Your conversion rate is higher, your cost per acquisition will be lower, because more people are converting that hit your site. So your conversion rate is the percent of people who buy, the percent of people that are traffic who actually purchase. So it's what percentage of your traffic, of the traffic to your site, is converting into a purchaser. Low conversion rates means it will cost more to make a sale. Industry average is 2% on e-commerce stores. I generally find that is still low to see really long-term profitability if you're driving a lot of your traffic through advertising. So working on your conversion rate is really, really important in all of these pieces as well. The number one reason why conversion rates are low, everyone talks about site speed, everyone talks about ease of navigation and all of those pieces of it. The number one reason is because your offer or product doesn't match and people don't want it. And that is really hard to hear. People don't like to hear that their baby is ugly. That's just true. But the reality is that a lot of time there is an offer or product mismatch to the audience that you're targeting. And so that is a huge thing to be looking at and be testing for. But there are foundational things that you want to be looking at as well, like, does your site take forever to load? If it takes forever to load, people who come there will leave because they're impatient. So get that taken care of. How easy is it to navigate, and how easy is it to check out? I can't tell you how okay, first of all, I buy so much stuff from ads. Maybe that's why I'm good at doing it. I buy so much stuff from ads. I leave sites if it's not easy for me to check out. I will buy from you. You will get me to buy from an ad very quickly if it's very easy for me to check out. So it's a huge piece of the puzzle that it's like the back end and people don't think about it. And yet it's you're probably losing people because of it. So it's something to definitely be looking at. Whew, okay, those are the numbers that are really important to be looking at. Seriously, it's worth spending the time to figure those things out. It's going to arm you with so much knowledge. in doing your own advertising, setting yourself up for success, and talking to anyone that might be wanting to work with you or drive your ads. So with that, if you have those things, then you will know if it's working or not, and someone can't pull the wool over your eyes, basically. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to not throw your money into the burning dumpster fire of Facebook ads and just literally light it on fire. And that is true and not true. We have obviously clients that kill it and are making so much money because they're driving so much of their traffic from Facebook ads. But a lot of people think that Facebook ads is like this magic bullet that is going to give them crazy new revenue and cash without actually having so many of the foundations in place, which is why I tell so many people to do these other pieces. Get sales organically, figure out where the gaps and the holes are, do those pieces, and then spend the money. And you can do it quickly and you can do it together. There are ways to accelerate this for sure. So I'm not saying like it's going to take you forever, but do these things to help you set yourself up for success. So number one, email is not dead. I think it was actually at the Ben Venture Conference, which is where I met Dave, that I had no less than 3 conversations with venture capitalists that swore up and down that email is dead. It's not dead. And I've heard this so many times. Email marketing delivers a staggering 38 times return on investment. I mean, it is crazy. 78% of marketers this year said that they saw an increase in email engagement in 2020. I am sure that's true because we have so many people that are stuck on their computers and eyeballs are online. So, and the reality is we have lockdowns here, lockdowns are coming, people are going to be stuck at home. This is still real. Like, this is the time to take advantage of it. But most businesses, even if they are running email campaigns, are using 20% or less of the capabilities on their email marketing platforms. People think about email like the promos that are stuck in our box with like all of these discount codes and crazy stuff. And there's so much more to it that sets up the back end of your e-commerce store for really strong success. So let's get your back end rocking. Okay, let's do that. So the automation foundation for e-commerce stores. There are 5 main automations that will make a massive difference and start driving revenue for you. As long as you do have some traffic, it will increase your revenue almost immediately. Klaviyo, which is the main email platform I recommend for e-commerce stores for email marketing, because it just beautifully integrates with online stores, and did a study in 2018 where they estimated $60 million in lost revenue in just 3 months of analysis from people who didn't have a proper abandoned cart series set up. And I can't even imagine what that number is today, because e-commerce just blew up this year, like beyond anything that anyone could ever have imagined, because we didn't imagine we were going to be in a pandemic. But it is crazy how much money stores are leaving on the table. So the 2, if you're not going to do anything else, you have to do a welcome series and an abandoned cart series. And I'm not just talking about, hey, opt in for my 10% off code and get this 1 coupon email. I'm talking about like really engage with your customers, like really get them integrated into who you are to get them to buy. So a proper welcome series I think it was the same study by Clavio, actually saw 320% more revenue attributed to the welcome series than promotional emails. That's massive. In the abandoned cart side, 70% of people who add to cart leave. They leave. Only 30% of people who actually take the step to add a product to their cart check out. What could it do for you if you could truly get even a small percentage of those people to purchase because you have the right email chain set up for them? It could make a huge difference for you. So one of the bonuses that I'm going to give everybody is actually a guide with really how to walk through the 3 to 5 emails that should be in these 2 series that will make a huge difference for you. Because I know it can be overwhelming to think about, and I think that this is so important. The next 3 are also super foundational, but honestly are going to make less of an impact as those first 2, but still very valuable. Feedback review requests is massive because it's social proof for you, and that's big in e-commerce, especially when you're driving people cold from advertising. People want to know that you're trustworthy. There are some really amazing platforms that can do that for you really easily. It's a plug and play, super easy. No reason not to do it, especially if you're on Shopify or WooCommerce. VIP or replenishment, I put these 2 together because if you're only going to spend time doing 5, you could do one or the other of them. And also replenishment doesn't really count if you don't have something that needs to be replenished. So depending on where you need to spend your time, VIP, people who have bought several times from you or people who have spent a lot of money, these are the ones that we want to be really nurturing, giving them something awesome, having them share with their friends. So that is what that series is all about. And then re-engagement is all about getting people to get back engaged into your list, give them something to incentivize them to either even just open the emails, but also potentially make a purchase. And then I'm not going to talk about this, but getting rid of people who don't engage with you. They haven't opened your email in a year, kick them out. They're not adding any value to you. It's really scary to do that. And we have like this weird ego thing about having these massive lists. But the reality is you're going to make so much more money by nurturing the people who actually want to be with you. So I'm going to put this in here because everyone's going to get the deck afterwards, and I just want people to be able to see it. But these are all the types of automations you could set up within your e-commerce store that will drive revenue. I mean, these are things that you literally set up once, and then they nurture your customers, drive revenue, and add money without you doing other things, anything else. Like, why wouldn't we do this? We can't do this in our retail stores. This is an amazing thing to be able to do. This graphic, I just want to point out, is from Austin Bronner and the Brand Growth Experts Coalition. They have a phenomenal training in building out Clavio automations. Okay, so that is email foundations. Now I'm going to talk about creating content. I'm going to call you out here, okay? A lot of people don't want to put the work in necessary to be successful organically. It's just true. I can be one of those people. It feels like it's going to be a lot of work. But the reality is there is not a magic bullet. And it really can make a difference, especially if you're not quite in that position to spend money on ads. Putting the time and effort into this will very quickly get you to that point if you actually spend the time and you're consistent. A little bit of effort and strategy can go a really long way. So here's the deal. You need to do it, or you need to have somebody do it. I'm going to lay out a couple basic strategies to help you start. And I'm also going to give you a list of content that you can easily start creating like today to have this stuff get going. So I just want to talk really quick about a really good example of a physical retail store that obviously experienced the shutdowns and, you know, had some really amazing success moving into being online. So Laura from Outer Banks Olive Oil, she's actually coming on to start in our consulting pods in January, which is super exciting because she is ready to level up her e-commerce store, seeing the potential that's there. And what happened was when the shutdowns happened, she took a couple days to let that sink in, and then she just took action. She started doing lives on her personal page, doing lives on her business page, and starting to realize that she was actually seeing some traction with it. So she was doing walkthroughs in her store during the shutdown, talking about what it felt like and what was going on. She was including people in the experience she was doing and giving them back-end experiences on that. And then she started to think about, okay, what do I do in my store that really engages people and gets people to buy a lot of stuff? Well, they do demonstrations on how to use the olive oil for recipes. They do wine tastings. So she started doing these on her pages. And it started taking off. They went from 20,000 in total revenue on their e-commerce store in 2018 to 20,000 last month. Now, yeah, it doesn't make up for the 100,000 a month store that she might not be able to have going right now, but it sets her up for success to be able to take it to the next level and have a true revenue stream for next year. It covers the expenses that it needs to while she's shut down. And now she's building more cash flow for her business once things are open back up. That's amazing. And anyone can do this and take these kinds of tactics. So you can do this. It's totally possible. So basic organic framework, plan your posts, super annoying, I know, but plan them. Have a plan for what you want to talk about, what you want to put out there, how you want to speak to your potential customers, and what kind of value you want to provide for them. Do at least one post a day on your Facebook business page and Instagram. I personally recommend 1 to 3 posts a day on your personal Facebook page with a little bit of talking about your business. There are people in your world that want to support you. They just do. And if, like, our businesses are our babies. So remember that. And it's worth it. It's worth it to do it. You can use a tool like SmarterQueue for your business pages, which will allow you to plan out content for like a month and then just have it scheduled. And that's totally fine. But getting that up will make a difference. Tell partners and fans and clients and customers about the stuff that you're doing. So one of the things is a weekly value video that is live every week on your page. Get people that love you to know about it, share it with their friends. And if you start doing it consistently, they will start supporting you more and more. But have real conversations with them. Send them a messengers, like send text messages, have real conversations with these people and get them to support you in that way. Go live and be yourself. Like, the reality is you being authentically you is probably a huge reason why people love you in the other sides of your business. So doing that here, it's the same. And the more you do it, the more natural and authentic it will become. And last but not least, for whatever reason, we don't do this in the other sides of our business, but we become really afraid to make offers. 2 things happen actually for e-commerce stores on their business pages. Either all you talk about is your product and go buy my product and nothing else, and then people stop engaging, or we don't ever make the offer. We never say why you should buy. And neither of these are the right balance. We need a little bit of both. And we need to have the authenticity, the things that build knowing and liking and trusting, and people need to see why they need to buy from you. So both those things need to happen. With that, I have in here this list of Facebook Live content that you could create. So this is more than a month's worth of potential live content you could create, and it will support the rest of your content creation as well. So 10 frequently asked questions that you always get all the time about your product, your retail space, the types of products you sell. These are the things that people ask, you have to answer them. You probably have a Q&A somewhere on your site or somewhere in your store that you give your salespeople. So put that into individual bite-sized pieces of content and utilize it to put in front of people and engage people. 10 things your customers should be asking about. Okay, the FAQs is easy, but this is the one that so many people skip over. What are the things that give your customers aha moments where they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, I see this pair of pants and I really like the design, but maybe they didn't know that every purchase supports an amazing organization, because that's not something that's right on the surface. That's not something that they're going to ask right about. So what are those things that are aha moments that get people to really buy in? Create those pieces of content in bite-sized areas. Product demos and walkthroughs. So doing this yourself, getting other people to do them, getting customers to do them. These are really, really good ways to get people to engage with your product. It starts to make it really easy to make those offers in front of people. Interview happy customers, interviews with vendors, your power partners, and your supporters. These are all ways to bring people into your ecosystem and also be able to make offers. So with this, you can easily make 50 or more different pieces of content, and then you can utilize those to send them out in emails or repost them. I highly recommend repurposing your content and recycling stuff every 2 to 3 months. It is not harmful for your algorithm. It's actually much better because people tend to need to see things several times. So organically, reuse the things that work. There is no reason to reinvent the wheel. Okay, that's organic. Alrighty, so we're gonna get into the paid side. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the aha moment I had, and I know we have at least one very amazing digital media buyer. I don't know what you'll think about me after I share this story, but this aha moment I had years ago, which was I couldn't figure out how to get what all these people were talking about. This is back in 2015 about driving so many purchases on their e-commerce store. I was like, I know this is possible. I don't know where to learn it. And all I'm getting from my marketing agency is how many impressions and engagements and maybe even clicks that they got, but they're not telling me about purchases. Like, what is going on? My store is stagnant. We're doing about 10,000 a month, but like I have these crazy goals. And I asked somebody that I'd been following for a while to hop on with me and just talk about what was going on in these Facebook ad campaigns. And she showed me where I could find the return on ad spend column. And I was like, what? Oh my God. I had no idea. I had no idea on the back end that you could look at return on ad spend, or that you could actually tell Facebook, I want you to only focus on people who will purchase. I had no idea. It was like this huge aha moment for me. Now, some of you that might be in the retail or the product side, that might be an aha moment for you right now. Like, that is a very real thing that very much is extremely common now today. But you might totally know that. You might know all about ROAS, and this is not a thing anymore. But what I'm going to tell you about is why it's also starting to be something we don't want to move away from, but is not the only focus. So the minimum viable Facebook funnel on Facebook ads in focusing only on purchases, right? So we have 3 levels. You're talking to people at the top of the funnel that are totally cold. These are people who've never heard of you before. They've never engaged with you. We're targeting interest-based and look-alike audiences of people who purchased from you in the past. So this is like the algorithm doing its magic and finding all the people that might look exactly like the people who buy from you. We're doing purchase conversion optimization on every step of the way. We're excluding warm and hot audiences from that top of funnel. The middle of funnel is people who engage with you, watch your videos. Maybe they've been to your store, but they have not added to your cart. Possibly they've looked at a product, but they might not have. They might be sending you messages or saving your posts. They're potentially commenting or reacting. They are aware that you're in the world and that you probably offer a solution to something that they want. Bottom of funnel are people who have showed extremely high intent. They have viewed your products and they have added to cart, but they have not made a purchase. These are the hottest people, the lowest hanging fruit, the people who are probably going to buy from you. In all of these places, we are doing very, very focused selling. Ad copy, video, and images are all focused on buying your products. We're not talking about value-based much in this at all. Bottom of funnel, we're typically using a dynamic product ad when you're in an e-commerce store, and that is literally pulling your products from your store, directly integrated, and putting the most likely product for them to purchase and or the product they actually looked at or added to cart. This funnel often relies a lot on discounting and scarcity. So putting time limits on people, offering discounts, getting them to purchase right now, because you're always saying in all of this, you're telling people, I want the people who are most likely to purchase right now when they see this ad. I ran ads utilizing this kind of purchase focused funnel for years. From my aha moment on, this was how I ran ads until about 20 months ago. And it worked, it made sense. You want sales, your clients want sales, and so you should optimize for purchase. That is the logic and the sensical logic behind it. But today, that logic presents a few problems. The most obvious being we're no longer in like the open frontier where we have cheap, endless possibilities for customers, where if you hit kind of close to home in your messaging and you have a like okay website, you can just tell them buy my shit and they'll buy it. It's just not the case anymore, where the purchase conversion campaigns are like these secret beaches that you stumble upon on your vacation. It's not like that anymore. It's more like this. Today, the Facebook ad space is just super overwhelming, overcrowded, and everyone is doing purchase optimization or lead optimization. They are saying they want the lowest hanging fruit, and we are competing with all of them. I'm going to give the credit where it's due for this analogy to one of my mentors, Kurt Malley, who developed the Belt method, because it's true. And that's why he developed the Belt method. So the thing about this is that it's still standard. This is what people do. It's now become the way to run ads. And it should be, because it is the lowest minimum viable, lowest hanging fruit for you to be able to make sales. And it's where you probably need to start. But there is other ways that you can do where you don't have to be spending tons of money and doing really well. And the thing is that the bro marketers out there and their agencies with their Lambos and their rented houses are still promoting to you that you should only focus on driving purchase conversion ads and that it's a waste of money to use the other objectives. But what they don't realize is that they're really trapping themselves for long-term growth that exists in a blue ocean that we can still tap into through ad platforms like Facebook and YouTube. And it's becoming less viable for smaller businesses to be able to afford those campaigns because they're expensive. So we have to be able to have other opportunities to do this. So the last thing I want to say about that kind of funnel is that we're kind of treating people like lemmings. We're saying, buy my shit, and expecting them to just jump off and do it right now. And that's not how we operate. If you take 2 to 3 weeks and really just take a step back and like look at how you interact with ads, even if you are like me and you buy tons of crap from ads, you're not buying 90% of the time the first time you see it. I would also argue on the flip side that if you're the type of person that's like, I'm not influenced by ads, if you really took a step back, you would probably see yourself being influenced in one way or another. And there is value in recognizing that as well. But this is not actual human behavior. This is not how people really operate. And we need to stop treating our advertising that way, because eventually we're going to start losing a lot of money. Plus, the funnel model really does nothing for you in creating long-term repeat customers, and it gets really expensive over time to continue to only focus on trying to get purchasers and get them into your funnel and acquire new people that way. So with what we've been doing in the last 20 months, I've been coming up with a little bit of a framework largely around the work that I've learned from Kurt Malley and his belt method, and then also my friend Molly Mahoney and her organic methods, that is talking in a different way that is not based on the funnel. It's based on the flywheel. And HubSpot talks a lot about this if you're in the digital space much at all, but we don't see it that much in the e-commerce space. So to tell you a little bit about what the flywheel is, with the flywheel, you use the momentum of your happy customers to drive referrals and repeat sales. Basically, your business keeps spinning even when you're not having to spend tons of money. The more you increase the speed, and the speed would be driving more advertising, and decrease the friction of someone being able to become a customer, the more you'll create like promoters of your business, people who love you, who are raving fans. And those promoters become this force that gets the spinning of your flywheel. And so this marketing strategy and ad strategy is based on that idea. It encompasses all of the things we've gone through so far today, and adds another layer to drive the increased speed with your advertising. So the inspired focus growth flywheel, basically we're looking at starting on the right side where you have your strangers. These are your prospects and your potential customers. You're meeting the customers where they are in the journey. So you're doing organic, you're doing video view ads, and we're still driving people to purchase or becoming leads or whatever the transaction that you're looking for is, to the people who are the lowest hanging fruit, so that you're making the money on them, but you're also at the same time building audiences to put them into a pool of people for longer term growth. You're engaging those people as well as all of your existing customers with value and nurturing. We are using video, we're using email, we're using direct conversation. Then you're presenting the offer at exactly the right time. We're talking about intent-based sales. How much are they engaging with you before they're seeing something? If they didn't purchase from you when they first saw an ad, then engage with them. Give them the things they need to make the decision before asking them to marry you, basically. Start engaging raving fans, getting them to be a part of this, putting content out that shows them and talks about them. Use email, use purchase campaigns. You might be able to start using in higher levels once you have things really going. SMS, we have one client that just kicked this off and it's ridiculous. It's doing so well. That turns your customers into promoters. This is where you start making more sales, you start making more repeat sales, and customers become raving fans that drive more sales for free. And this continues to go and spins faster, and the content and the ads that you're putting out just drive everyone to buy more. So doing this does things like this. So this is one of our clients. We started 3 months before Black Friday 2019. They doubled their return on ad spend in 2019 after we had set this system up for them for only a couple months. They that year got a 7.43 return on ad spend on Black Friday. Once we had this going for a year, we were making money all year profitably, 2 to 3, 4 times return on ad spend. We hit 2020 Black Friday, 33 times return on ad spend. 70% of people who bought that day had never purchased before. These are people who'd been engaging with them for a year. This is what the possibility is. Another one that is like kind of a next level. This is like hashtag goals for all of our clients and a lot of people we work with on the other side. This is where the halo effect comes in, because what this kind of system does, it means that you're not going to see all your attribution through the ad platforms anymore, because you're driving all of this other value-based pieces around it that people aren't necessarily going to click on an ad and go purchase, but they're going to come find you because they're going to go to the person they trust because you've been engaging with them. And so what happened here is that if you look at their eROAS, their total amount return, they actually made 4 times what they spend on ads. The platform only shows 2 times, but here's the really interesting part, right? If you look at that last metric, 83% of people were brand new. The only way they were driving traffic was Facebook ads. So that means the vast majority of those sales came from people who had been nurtured in one way or another. So this is all possible. But what I don't want to scare you on with these big numbers is that you have to spend big numbers to do this. Because that's the flip side of this, is that it doesn't have to be expensive. This method and this method of advertising, if you have all those foundational pieces in place that we talked about before, can actually drive new audiences for as little as $5 to $10 a day. And you can drive overall purchases and spend $1,000 a month. And then when you're doing well, start to increase it. So there's so many more tactics that actually go into all of these things. I would love to be able to like dive into all of that stuff. I'm already like way over time with you guys, and I want to like really respect that. I hope that even if you feel a little overwhelmed, that you have like ideas flowing that could help you and like knowing where you can go. I want to just mention that because of all of these conversations I've had with Dave, I've had with a lot of prospects and different people, and you know, the need for getting into this, our team is starting a new program that is the e-commerce consulting pods. And basically, I just want to like mention it really quick. If it's something that could provide value to you guys, I'm only going to be taking on 5 people in this first round. So it essentially is for anyone who is not quite at that place to have an agency or a full-time like e-commerce director, but really wants to take it to the next level and potentially put some investment towards doing that. So business owners who are ready to commit to building their e-commerce and need the roadmap and the guidance, businesses who can dedicate a part-time person and need them to have guidance and accountability and reporting back to the owner. And you're ready to invest, but like really you shouldn't be spending $3,000 to $4,000 a month on an agency retainer to do done for you. That's like the low end of what our clients are paying for us to do all this work for them. And you don't really have a marketing director or e-commerce director. So it's providing everything you need to do all these things, to get this set up, to be super successful and create the foundation so that you could hire that agency person, or you can hire that full-time person. So it's like the guidance for all those pieces. So what you'll get is 6 months of support from me and my team, 2 90-day strategy, one-on-one strategy sessions where we'll develop your 90-day plan, the goals and what we're going to accomplish that will then be taught to you in the trainings, which are in weekly consulting pods with other like businesses, no competitors though. And those trainings will be tailored to you. One time, monthly one-on-ones with either me or my team, depending on what you need. And then a dedicated Slack channel, 5 days a week, access to me or my team to ask questions, monthly accountability reports to the owners, and special guest trainings tailored to your goals. For anyone who is part of the masterclass, these are bonuses that I'm adding in for committing before the end of the year. So an additional strategy session with me that's valued at $1,000, belt method fast track. Okay. I decided I was going to do this morning. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to pay. If you commit before the end of the year, I will pay for you to go through the beginner training of the belt method to run your own Facebook ads. It's just, I don't even think it's been released yet. I haven't even asked Kurt about this. I'm just going to pay for it. And it's going to give you everything you need to run the base of your Facebook ads. And then you'll have us on the other side to guide every piece of strategy. And then 4 creative requests completed by my team over that 6-month period so that you can use those on your organic, on your paid, whatever. Yeah, so that's all the stuff there. If you want to learn more, just grab a time on my calendar. We'll hop on a Zoom call, see if you're a good fit. Like I said, we're only doing 5 people. I actually only have 3 spots left. Laura, who did the amazing stuff with Outer Banks olive oil, she's going to be in the pod and super awesome. Already clearly has some awesome stuff she's done that will be able to mastermind with you. And that's what we got there. And I know I'm going to throw it to Dave really quick before we get into Q&A, because I think he's going to do a little something as well for everyone to be able to use Candid Wholesale for the extended period of time past what they're already doing amazingness for free in this crazy pandemic time. So yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Dave here again from Candid Wholesale. We are currently, the whole platform is free for everybody until the end of February. And it's, again, a wholesale management platform. So if you do any buying or selling wholesale, I would encourage you to check it out. We've spent a lot of time on it, and our customers so far have been very, very happy with it. But we've also dropped our subscription fees down to nothing, just to help out during the pandemic and make sure that everybody's got all the bells and whistles for the upcoming trade show season of January and February. Things tend to get very busy in wholesale. So if you reach out to me after this, we'll happily hook you up, get you set up, and we'll extend your free period through March, because why not more free? That's so awesome. And like, I'm just going to add in there that we have clients that use Candid, and they like absolutely love it. It just makes a really big difference for them to be able to have the network and the community to be able to sell into really, really well, and like the ease of it, but also the integration with their Shopify store just makes everything so much easier. So super, super duper, duper awesome. Okay. I think we have some Q&A stuff, and I know we're kind of past time, but I want to like just go ahead and dig into this stuff and answer any questions. And yeah, so Dave, I will be the Q to your A. Yeah, we've got a question from Ariel, which is, okay, so when you're doing e-commerce, when you're advertising for an e-commerce site, how do you pick the balance between individual products and your brand overall? Totally. Especially when you're small and just getting started, and you can't necessarily, you don't necessarily know what your best sellers are. You don't have enough data points to tell kind of what are your money makers. Like, how do you spend a small budget to figure out which is the strongest Skittle in the bag, so to speak? Totally. So it is a little bit harder if you don't have an idea of what the bestseller is. I will say, we find even people who don't have a ton of data, there is typically a few likely outstanders. So I do recommend kind of going through a process of
what are those products and what do you see as the most likely fits, and kind of ranking them yourself and going about it that way, and really focusing on 2 to 3 at the outset and killing quickly. That's the other piece, right? So it's okay if it didn't work. Typically we want to test a few different messaging pieces, a few different pieces of copy. And what we're looking for when we're in that kind of testing phase is certain levels of click-through rates, right? So typically the standards we hear are 1% click-through rates and $1 cost per clicks. This can get significantly lower, but those are kind of the lower KPIs that we're looking for, of like, okay, you've got the right audience, they're interested in this particular product and whatever message you put in front of them, to know if that is potentially a winner. So you can actually test, spend a lot less money, look at those lower metrics first and make decisions there before you're like, okay, these are the 4 or 5 products that are winners, and I'm going to narrow down to those and focus on those.
Awesome. And that's actually an incredible segue into our next question from Shauna, which is there a magic moment when you just know to switch from testing mode to doubling down on the thing that works mode? Or is there like a percentage of the budget or a system that you set up to just know when to switch modes?
So this is something I didn't touch on at all, but I think is so important. And one, having the mindset going in that you do need to test to be successful for the long term. So I actually do highly recommend committing to at least 1 month of budget being for testing, because otherwise you will end up spending so much more money in the long run, like just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that some of it sticks. So with that, I say that being ready to commit that. So that piece of it. We also tend to keep about 10% of all monthly budgets towards testing. So we're always ready for whatever's next and be doing some other stuff. Also, some of kind of our methodology allows for ongoing testing while nurturing. That's getting into a whole other piece of it. But with that, again, there's some standard KPI. So kind of looking down at that of $1 cost per clicks and 1% click-through rates is kind of where you want to be aiming for at the low end and be looking to increase it. So the ways that you're increasing it are testing that other messaging, testing different ways that you're doing your creative. Are you doing video? Are you doing other things? Is it thumb stopping? Are you getting people to stop and engage with you? And testing one variable at a time is going to help you. So, and this is kind of speaking to minimum viable Facebook funnel stuff as well. Not a little bit more complicated strategy, but I highly recommend doing tests where you're testing only one variable. So first, all of your images are the same and you're testing different copy. You could flip flop those two depending on where you want to go. And you're looking for which one of those performs the best. Okay, take the best performing copy and do the different, and you can do the same thing with products as well, right? Like, so best performing copy and different images. Okay, so now we have that. So this is a little bit more overall brand, but maybe it could speak to a collection. It could speak to like, you know, that you have one product you really want to promote. There's a couple different ways. Okay, so now you have your best performing image with your best performing copy. Now you test headlines. Now you have a great ad that can start to drive that traffic. And so you're looking for those KPIs. Let's just say it all falls apart. None of it works. Okay, then it's back to the drawing board a little bit. And just where are we missing the mark? Are we not connecting to the avatar enough? Is our creative not stopping the thumb enough? So really trying to look at those pieces and decide how we want to do that. So you could take a step ahead of this and go a little bit more general with, okay, we're going to test out these 4 different products, and we're going to have kind of similar copy, but talking about that product, and we're going to see which one gets those highest click-through rates. pick that product then that does the best, and then go through this kind of testing methodology.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense.
Helps.
No, I mean, I'm not the asker, but it helped me.
Yeah.
Finally, we've got a question from Tracy about the specifics of just these ads that we're talking about for Facebook specifically.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on like still images versus video for advertising content?
Well, if you couldn't tell, I'm kind of, you probably couldn't tell because I didn't get this deep into it, but I am a video psycho person. I love video for so many reasons because of the fact that you really can build so many audiences from it and nurture them for the long haul. So I see video as providing value beyond, is video going to get better click-through rate than an image? And part of that is because you can get people to watch a video. And if you have, let's just say, a 2 to 3 minute video that's a product demonstration, or if you have a retail store where you're doing different combinations of outfits that are in season, there's like so many different things you can do. But let's just say you have a 2 to 3 minute video. Well, you can get someone likely to watch that video for 10 cents, potentially all the way through. Mm-hmm. Getting a 10-cent click is almost impossible now. It's like magic. It's like the unicorn results we got for that one client for Black Friday because we've been nurturing people all year long. So at my core, I think video provides so much more value, but I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of instances where images work really well, but I think they work the best when you're putting them in front of people who have built a know, like, and trust with you via your videos.
Awesome. And I assume that the standard sort of internet video rules apply, which is it's gotta work with the sound off. It's gotta be super compelling in the first 2 seconds or whatever. Is there anything else on that list that you'd recommend?
Well, I think to dive into that second point that you made really well is that really speaking to their aspiration or their pain point right off the bat, getting whatever that immediate attention grabbing thing is so important. So one thing I didn't talk about, I had thought about putting into this, is in messaging and copy, really following, and this speaks to like the videos that you're creating, really following the AIDA principles that are copywriting principles, which is attention, interest, desire, and then action. So following that in your scripting. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that I have this other bonus that is totally speaks to this. It is a video creation bonus that actually has like a walkthrough of scripts that you can use to do your videos.
That's fantastic. No, I know. I personally learn a lot better from examples than sort of abstract sets of rules.
Yeah. So I'm going to provide that, which helps with this. But look up the AIDA principle, AIDA, for everyone on here, because that is really honestly so key. And then what else you said? I think Dave, I believe you guys use ClipScribe. It's a great platform to be able to add captions. We use Wave Video for creating all of our videos, and they have recently added a caption function, which is also awesome, and it's pretty inexpensive. But there's a lot of different ways. And then actually Facebook natively, like you don't even have to pay for a platform, can add captioning. So like you don't have to get crazy with this stuff. Like you don't have to have super produced videos to be able to utilize them and have them do awesome. Like honestly, some of the ads that we see do the absolute best are the most raw ads. Like they're not overly produced. They're really, because people feel really authentically connected to them. So don't be afraid to put that stuff out there, and then just use the native tools on Facebook to actually, add the additional pieces, the small animations or the captions, those kinds of things.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's funny because this is just a very different conversation than it would have been a year ago, because at this point,
Totally.
if you have a desk job, you have probably figured out how to be on camera and talk in
Totally.
one sense or another, and
So
that's not
true.
nothing.
And
That's quite a lot of experience you suddenly have.
oh my gosh, that's so true. And honestly, it's so the same. I think this was a huge aha moment for me when I really started getting into the importance of video, is that it's a conversation with somebody. And
Yeah.
that is the thing, right? You can do this. You can use Zoom and have a conversation with somebody to create this content.
Yep.
You can totally do that. You don't
I've
have
done
to
it
be
myself.
a talking head. Yeah. You don't have to be a talking head talking to yourself on a screen. You can actually like have a full-blown conversation and pull out the tidbits, the golden nuggets, as we like to call them on the agency side, that can work for ads and organic content and like really nurture your audience. There is actually a amazing pet supplement brand that I referred to, Molly Mahoney, for organic, T1D1 or T1TDC. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but they are such a good one to look at because they do almost all of their lives are like interviews with other people, and it works so well. Like it works so well. They're talking about their product, but they're having like really engaging conversation. So that, you know, getting outside of our heads that we have to be some kind of talking head to make this work is I think really helpful.
Yeah. No, there's a reason they used to film sitcoms in front of a live studio audience.
Right? Totally.
There's an energy that you just don't get when you're staring at a wall by yourself.
Yeah, totally. I think that's super true. So anything else we got? Good.
That does it.
Awesome.
That's our list of cues.
Well, thank you to everyone. You guys are going to get this presentation in your inboxes if you sign up through the form thing to sign up for the masterclass. Woo, my brain. You are also going to get all of those bonuses I talked about. I will also put my booking link onto there, and I am going to edit the emails to add the discount code or the referral code, I guess, for Candid, so that you can get that extra free month. I highly, highly recommend that you guys take advantage of this like incredible offer that Candid is doing, where they've extended their free time through February. Because I mean, seriously, like why not take advantage of everything that they're providing for free while you can do it? So yeah, thanks everybody for joining and being here today with us.
Thanks, Jamie. This was a lot of fun.
All right.